Islands there, we're talking about 307 and 321, both doing the same job, one coming from a chick, one coming from a bird. The interesting thing that Graham said to me was that doing the 307 to the adults, he wasn't getting issues with the youngsters. Because obviously the parents are feeding them and they're passing on what's in their gut as well. So when you switch the immune system on for cocci-megabyte in the adults, they're not passing it on to the youngsters. So, you shouldn't technically get flies and disease if the adults are switched on, Now there's some things that can be with dogs, you can pass the immunity on through the pups, but it doesn't work the same with eggs. If it did, we'd be on to an absolute winner, but it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Now, French mold. Have you had issues with French mold? You know what causes French mold?
Is it virus?
No, it's not a virus. Over the years, I've done loads of experiments and that, and I have managed to put 3 different types of canaries, Bengalese, and zebra finches into French mold. It's a stress mold. It's a survival mechanism. Again, it can be a bit hereditary because, different families and humans react different to stress, and it causes issues with family stress, dermatitis and, all these different things brought out with stress. It's the same with birds. You can have families that are more prone to stress, but when a bird's dehydrated and it's lacking nutrition, it's under stress, and the body says to itself, I can't cope with this, I don't want to die, what am I going to do? So it gets rid of its main tail feathers and flight feathers that need a lot of maintenance just to survive. 9 out of 10 times they'll come back in again without an issue, but if it doesn't, it's because the feather follicle's been damaged, and so when the feather comes, it doesn't come in properly. Well, the same with sausage-shaped feathers. It's all about stress and it's all about damage and that. If it was a virus, it would be over the whole bird. But French molt is main tail feathers, flight feathers. Sometimes in extreme cases you will have body feathers. But again, the classic is, how many times have you put a bird in, a cock in with another birds, and it gets beaten up, and all of a sudden it drops its feathers? Stress. It's the stress of being attacked. And again, people move youngsters out of a nest, they're all looking fine, they put them into a cage. The next day they've dropped their feathers because they've been under stress. Where am I? What's going on? All these strange faces, where's the food? Where's the water? Oh, I haven't managed it. Under stress, and it's dropped his feathers. It's a survival mechanism, Birds in the wild will do the same.
You said if you take them away from the parents too early, that's when they're going to get most stress. So it's better to leave them in longer.
Leave them in longer, but then the problem you've got is parents get attacked. It's that happy balance.
Yeah.
But again, I would rather you take your birds away in the morning and take them away with birds similar age or separate, so they don't have the stress of all these other birds bullying them. And they need peace to get on with it. So
would you say then it's best to try the stress homeopathic or the probiotic and the top S? Or both?
They're both different. The top S is setting the environment they got up. The beauty of that is that your birds on top S being fed will leave the nest 3 to 5 days early, far better feathers. You're going to ring them 2 days early to make sure you get ring on, and that sets them up really good.
So you're hoping you're having less stress.
But stress reducer is great as well, because they say that's just relaxing the birds, But you can still be on stress reducer and still get French molt, And quite often it's the better birds that you have that have French molt, because they've got more feathers to maintain, they're under more stress, and so they lose their feathers quicker. But again, you have certain families that, because of that, they are more prone to French molt. I wouldn't not breed with a French molter, especially when it comes back in. But you've got to be aware that you want the proper nutrition, you want the proper water, as well. Because birds don't drink that much, and it doesn't take much for them to get under stress. And quite often when somebody phones me up, and it's usually June, July, when it's the hotter months, and the birds are dehydrated because the parents are getting lazy, they're not feeding so well, and they're almost like getting cooked. Quite often it's a box within a box is a lot hotter, and so it's almost like heat stroke. that you're giving the birds, because they're boiling up in these little box within a box, and they're getting stressed out and they're losing their feathers. But they will come back, and I say it's something you just got to keep an eye on, and some years people get it and some years they don't. But again, it's all about the environment and just the temperature. And when you've got parents that are lazy, then you have more issues. I always say you're better with birds to have 3, 4, 5, 6 birds in a nest than just 1 and 2. When you have a couple of chicks in a nest, the parents get lazy. They'll feed them, they'll sit. They'll feed them, they'll sit. And then they'll start to get lazy and not feed them so much, And then they'll want to move on to another nest. Whereas if you've got 4, 5, 6, they're constantly at it, constantly at it. They're always looking at it. And so the birds are looked after better. So I would always say, move the 1 or 2 out of that, and if you've got another space, put them in. So even if you have to make up to 6, they're going to get fed better. And then it allows these birds to go and move on and breed again, It's not rocket science, it's just, knowing your birds and knowing what effects these different things have on them. But say, the amount of things over the years that you get vets saying, oh, it's a virus, it's this, that thing. It's not. The fact that I managed to put zebras, Bengalese, and different types of canaries in the French mold just by stressing them out. And, they had to survive, and it was like tail feathers, flight feathers. If you know the sequence of feather loss, you can put your bird into a mold by pulling its tail feathers out. And that will just start a chain reaction to start going through a mold. Not that I advocate that, but, people going home and pulling all the feathers out, let's watch to see what happens, It doesn't work like that. Is there any questions?
When you said you soak your wheat for 2 days, why 2 days?
I soak the wheat for 2 days. Every seed's different. Some seeds will start to germinate and start to sprout after a couple of days. But it just gives it enough time to start the germination process but not sprout. Most wheat will do that. Other seeds you might find within 2 days are starting to sprout, and you're getting little shoots coming at them. To me, you've gone just too far when you do that. You want to change the composition to start germination but not sprout, But no, it's such a cheap product, less than £10 for a 25 kilogram bag, or 20 kilos for 16 quid for something that's not got nutrition.
You just use plain water, Colin, or you put something in the water?
I just put plain water. Some people are worried about things growing. You can put clean and clear checkmate in the water, 10 mils, and that will stop anything growing, But if you soak it for 2 days and rinse it, there's no issues. What I tend to do is every other day I soak seed, and it lasts for 2 days. So the second time they're getting it, it's probably the third day soaking, But not an issue. Not an issue.
You don't let it sprout then?
Sorry?
You don't let
No, I don't let it sprout. No, I know people that use mung beans and all the rest, and they let them sprout.
No,
It's still good nutrition, but you just want to germinate.
I use wheat, but I let it sprout. Sprout.
Right. No, I wouldn't take it as far as that. I would just 2 days and then just feed it to them. But again, if they're not used to it, crush it up a little, open it up. Once they get into it, and again, it's not about taking away the seed and just swapping. Give them the choice. When I'm feeding my youngsters, I've got a little plastic tray. I'll put wheat on it. I'll put a little bit of oats or groats. I'll put grated carrot. I'll put spinach and boiled egg, and that's it. It's all fresh, whole nutrients. It's not something that's made up that lasts for, a year. How nutritious is it? If a year later you can still use it technically, So, and it's.
You say you use boiled egg. There was an article recently that says budgeriars are unable to digest animal protein.
And who was it?
I don't know, it was a budgerigar, wasn't it? I can't remember.
Nonsense. You're telling me a chick that's developing is unable to absorb a yolk? To say that they can't absorb animal protein. I'm not talking about feeding them chickens. I've seen myself in years gone by putting the leftover of the chicken for the Sunday dinner into that, and they'll go nuts over it, and rip it to bits. But this is something that you're giving them for nutrients to develop themselves. And I say you want to give them the best. Because if you feed them rubbish, your birds aren't going to produce when they're 3, 4 years old, because they haven't got maintained themselves to be able to the ability to do that. Whereas you give them the right nutrients when they're growing up, you've got a bird that will then go on. But again, you've got to maintain that. You know, like people say, would you feed egg all year round? Yes, but I'd cut it back. You know, you don't feed as much as what you do when they're feeding chicks as what you do for later on, but it's still super nutrients. It's almost like saying to the wild birds, oh, if they, in the winter time when there's just the seeds around about, they won't eat insects. Of course they'll eat insects. It's not just the summertime. If they find an insect, they'll eat it any time of year, you know. So I find that strange. So
do you use a proprietary egg food or just
no,
what it is?
no. Wheat. The biggest bulk of egg food is is bakery byproducts, which is wheat. So why pay silly money for something to manufacture something that's processed and is not nutritious compared to wheat, which is a fraction of the price and it's whole and it's complete, you know? And you add spinach to it, add, you know, carrot and that, an egg, you've got it. Sorry. Any other questions?
Yeah, some of these youngsters now, especially it tends to always be your best bird, has a problem with getting through its first moult. It takes a lot out of them, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially the modern day bird.
Yeah.
Anything you would use?
You bought it.
Yeah.
Top S. Top S will set the environment they got up so it strips all the nutrients. So even people feeding rubbish food, all the nutrients will be stripped out, which gives the bird what it requires to replace itself. But again, it's all about amino acids. You know, protein, forget the word. Amino acids, essential, non-essential. That's what builds protein. So get the food into it. And this is where people have issues. Oh, I use egg food, and I use this and I use that. They're feeding fillers. You know, they're not getting the nutrients. You can write 90% protein, but if you're not getting it absorbed out of the food, you're getting nothing. You know. So this is why a lot of birds have issues with feathering. It's because they're not getting the nutrients to maintain themselves. You know, never mind get switched on for breeding. So especially youngsters going through the first moult, you want to make sure you've got hemp, you've got your spinach, you've got your wheat, you know, get your egg into them because that's the building blocks to get them to where you want them. Yeah, and again, the top S will just set the environment they got up.
And what about sunflower? Because I think most people say that it's quite good. It's an oil base.
It's oil. There's a lot of oil, a lot of fats in it as well. You've got to watch you don't give too much because then you can overdo it. You don't want to put fat in the bird. You want to put muscle. You want to put feather. You know, so feed it accordingly.
But you can eat fat.
Yeah, fat's essential. Yeah, definitely, but not too much because then when a bird starts to store fat, its hens will store it at the back end. You know, if you've ever seen a chicken when you've had it at Sunday dinner, you'll see the fat at the back end. You know, that's where they store it, and that just affects egg production. You know.
Colin, when you say you feed, I'm sorry if I'm saying it. When you say you're feeding boiled eggs, you mash it up or how do you?
Yeah, I just chop it up.
Yeah.
That's another beef I have with people. The birds sit in the cage there all day long. What's it doing? We need to chop everything up to the finest thing. Oh, we need that. Let the bird chew it itself. You know, I cut it up, but I don't, you know, blend it up. I used to do all this blend, but I thought, what a waste of time. You know, the birds are sitting there doing nothing. Let them chew away at it. You know, the carrots, you know, grind it in. Let them chew it themselves. It gives them something to do, you know.
And you use the eggshell as well?
No, I don't. I don't. But again, when it comes to calcium, I get phone calls regular from people during the breeding season, and they'll say to me, I've got infertility. Right, there's two questions I ask. One, are you using liquid calcium? The people that sell liquid calcium say this is nonsense, but I'd love to give them all the phone numbers of all the people who phoned me over the years. Liquid calcium into the water, the bird has no choice but drink it. Cocks don't need it. Hens that take it, if there's too much, it'll go through them. You'll see it in the colour of the droppings, you know. And what happens is, on the shell gland, as that yolk's coming down and gets the white round it and then gets the shell round it, in the shell gland, if there's too much calcium, your chick's going to have a struggle getting out because it's going to be a slightly harder shell. And you're talking fractions amount of difference to make it slightly harder, and you're going to have issues with pipping out. You know, cockbirds, it can turn them sterile. Unfortunately, being in the poultry industry, because it's an industry, they've spent millions and millions, probably billions over the years on research. Too much calcium in a cock will turn it sterile. Too much of vitamins, minerals of all sorts in an imbalance will lock up the system in birds. So you've got to watch what you do, and calcium is one of these things that, you know, when people phone up, infertility, are you using liquid calcium? Yeah, how do you know that? You're doing it with a layer? Yeah, how do you know that? Says you've turned your cock watch sterile. Take them off it again, with 3 or 4 weeks they'll come back in again. But for that period of time, you've wasted a lot of eggs.
What do you use then as an alternative to get the calcium?
Alternative for calcium, spinach, broccoli. You're looking at, have your cuttlefish, have your oyster shell grit, you know, have your nibble blocks. Have sources of calcium that the bird can go to if it needs it. If it doesn't need it, it won't go to it. The amount of times I've seen wild birds going away and getting off the buildings, taking the lime off the buildings, you know, they're lacking some, they'll go for it. But if you put something in the water and it gives it no choice to take it, you're doing a disservice to the bird. Again, the other reason for infertility is too much light. Birds are stimulated by light, right? And it's the day length coming on that stimulates them. Any more than 14 hours light is too much, and it overstimulates the bird. The pituitary gland's going nuts, and the bird will come in and out of cycle. The canary boys as well, they'll have birds that will come in, they'll sit, they'll lay, then they'll come off their eggs because they've been screwed up with the pituitary gland and they're coming in and out of cycle. Cockbirds will come in and out of cycle as well. And so if they've got more than 14 hours light, you know, there's a chance that it can come in and out of cycle. And if the bird's, you know, hatching, with a hen and it's out of cycle, you're not going to get any fertility at all. So what I always say to people is 14 hours light is your maximum. Now people say, oh, in the summertime though, it's you know, there's 18 hours light. It's all about the intensity of light. Birds see the difference in night and day by 100 lux. So this could be set at 250 lux and it's really bright, and we can cut that down to 150 lux, and the birds would treat that as darkness, you know. And so it's intensity of light that stimulates them. So, you know, people quite often say, oh, I bring my lights on at a certain time and they go off at a certain time. Quite often you can see it's more than 14 hours light. Cut it back, you know, it's doing no favours to yourself. But ideally you want to start off at 12, maybe go up to 13, and maybe at the latter stages if you want go up to 14, but I wouldn't go past it.
Would you break that light down?
Sorry?
Would you break the light down halfway through the day for a couple of hours?
Yeah, good point. You can break the light up. Again, birds take the longest period of darkness is night. You know, in the poultry industry, we can produce big eggs really quickly by putting them on 6 days a week. You know, and so we have the lights coming on and off, but we don't have any more than 14 hours light because then it overstimulates them. You know, but yeah, you can break it up. So if you have it off for 2 hours in the afternoon and it's dark, the birds will relax. It doesn't affect the pituitary gland. You know. So you can have it coming on, because people work different shifts. You know, if you want to see your birds 6 o'clock in the morning, you want to see them at 11 o'clock at night, you can do that, but cut them out during the day. You know, but if you have natural light coming in and it's going to keep them on the intensity of light, so it's beyond that 14 hours, then you're going to have issues. You know, you've got to be able to control the intensity. Yeah. Any other questions?
With the obviously with the chicken poultry thing that you do, is there something with the lights where it's like blue and red and
yeah, yeah? That's more for stressing the birds and for pecking each other. You know, they see certain things, and you know, if a bird's got like free range, they have issues with pulling feathers and that. And if you change to a red light, they don't see anything the same, so they don't have the same issues with pecking. It's more for the stress.
Controlling.
Yeah. You start getting cannibalism in birds, and you know you can have problems.
If you're talking about light, is there a difference? A lot of us now are using LED.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between the white light and the warm light? Does that make any difference?
Personally, I haven't looked into it. I'd be lying if I told you otherwise, but you know, I've used different types of lighting over the year, and it's not really made much difference. If you can get natural light, that's the best. But again, they're talking about they don't get vitamin D because they're out in the sun, they're not out in the daylight and all the rest. But it's not that big an issue. They're getting nutrients from good whole fresh food.
So you don't think you need a vitamin D supplement then if you've got your birds housed in, not in natural daylight?
No, again, people talk about vitamin D and calcium as well. If you're given the proper nutrients, then you shouldn't have issues. The people that tell you need them are the people that are selling these things. I've been approached over the years with so many companies, with so many products to say, would you sell this, promote this, you've got to have the customer base. And I look at it and I'll say, why? Oh, it does this, it does that. But it's only trying to focus on one thing. You've got to look at the big picture and get a balance, And this is where I say, people start off in birds and they do brilliantly because they keep it simple. And they keep it fresh, and they don't know any difference. It's only when they get in with the experts that say, oh, I use this product and I use that and I use all the rest. It's like, my breeding season went like that. Yeah.
What about feather plucking, or when the hen takes the down? Is that usually lack of nutrients, or?
It can be boredom. It could be potential lack of something. Because birds, when they're lacking something, will look for something. Again, the poultry industry, you get feather plucking, it's because they've got something lacking in their diet and they're looking for it, And I would say boredom is one of the big things. And this is one thing about stress reducer, it's fantastic because it relaxes the birds. They're not highly strong, they're just relaxed. It doesn't dope them, it doesn't affect performance, it just makes all the difference. But yeah, again, you probably see more plucking with 1, 2, and 3 chicks in a nest than what you do with 5, 6, 7. Because of that boredom factor. Keep them busy feeding and they've got nothing else to think about.
Would you use that checkmate in the fogger?
Checkmate, a lot of people use it in a fogger, yeah. It's food safe. The thing about clean and clear checkmate, the only place you don't use it is over eggs. You spray it over eggs, what happens is it takes the cuticle, which is the outer coating, off the eggs, and it opens the pores up for bacteria to come in. So you can spray it over chicks, everywhere else, not a problem, but just not eggs. But a lot of people use it, 10 mils per litre, regular spray. But I love getting phone calls from people that they thought they were going to have to give birds up and they're now spraying this and getting a whole new environment and, fresh. Big difference. Don't be going like that, but But the phone calls I get, I had a phone call for cleaning, I had a phone call from a Welsh chap, I'm not going to put the accent on, don't worry. It was you. And he says, the first thing he said was, I've got my wife a new cooker. I went, excuse me? He said, your clean and clear checkmate came in last week. And he said, I used it on the shed for spraying and did what you told me. And I says, what a difference. I came in, opened the oven door and I sprayed it. And I forgot about it. And half an hour later, I went back and I wiped it all out. And I said, my wife came in and I opened the door and she said, oh, you got me a new cooker. I'm thinking, how bad was it? Seriously. But no, I remember a woman in Yorkshire, probably about 7 years ago, phoned me up, and the first thing she said was, I've lost my husband. It's like, hello? Yeah, he got that clean and clear checkmate from you last week, and he used to go in the shed. He kept canaries, he used to go in the shed, and after 20 minutes, half an hour, that was him for the day because of his chest. He says he's now in there for hours. And I'm thinking, didn't say this to her, I thought, you've not lost your husband, I have saved your marriage. Honestly. He got his hobby back,
So we had no problem with breathing that in then as you spread it around?
No, walk back was, let it settle, no problem. No problem. I had a chap last October at Stafford came in. He had shorts on to just below his knees. And he stands in front of the stand and says, look at my legs. I'm thinking, aye? He says, I got your clean and clear checkmate a couple of months back, and he says, I'm spraying it around, and my dermatitis in my legs are all gone. And then he pulls his shorts up, and from his knees up, he had bad dermatitis. And I says, well, what about then? He said, I only discovered it 2 days ago. I'm going home now to do the whole lot,
Naked.
Yeah. But I have people that have had athlete's foot for years, and they'll put 20 mils per litre in the water, soak their feet in, and within a couple of applications, the athlete's foot's gone. because it's viruses, bacteria, mold, spores, and funguses, and the way it kills it, it's food safe, but it just does the job. You know, people say, "Oh, it comes out with stress." Yeah, but it's got to be there in the first place to come out.
Yeah.
You know, you spray it on and it comes away. Brilliant. There's so many angles I can go with this. It's scary. You know, fleas, ticks, even kill spiders. That was another phone call I got. I've just used your clean and clear check fight. It's killed a friend of mine. Excuse me? There's a big spider in the corner of the shed I used to speak to every day, and I said after spraying it around, I found it dead on the floor. You know, it's done the job.
Oh.
But
What about charcoal? I often hear people, they burn their toast on purpose and give it to the birds.
that's just these religious people that like to give burnt sacrifices, is it not? No, charcoal's okay. Again, as a kid, as a 6-year-old, I used to go around all the bird people in the villages, you know, and I was like a wee sponge. And I think what I used to do as a 6-year-old up, you wouldn't encourage a kid to go around anybody these days the way people are, you know. But I was into the British boys, the Canary boys, and the Pigeon boys, and they used to use the Kilpatrick's minerals, and and I used to have a wee bit of everything in there, you know, take advice from everybody. It's not hard to have it. If the birds need it, they'll pick it up. But if they don't,
Do you keep it separately though? Like it's mine, is it grit?
no, I keep it separate.
Use it separately.
You're cruel to your birds, having them pick through it, you know. Give them a wee choice, you know. Does no harm putting a mix, but if you know you put them separate, yeah. It's not a bad thing to have. The more variety you give the birds, the better. But the trouble is, if you give them too much variety, they'll pick what they like, not necessarily what's good for them. Like people say, "Oh, I do sweet corn. I love sweet corn." But it's not as good as other things, and they'll fill themselves up on that, and you wonder why you're having feather issues, you know, because you put dishes of seed in, and different birds will take different types of seed. You know, you'll tell that, you know, there's plain canary, there's white millet. Oh, that's all the plain canary gone, you know. But it's not doing the bird any favours. You're better giving it just white millet than something else. You
When
know?
you say just give it white millet, and say if you're using like I don't know, like a Champion's Choice that's got lots of different things in it, are you better off feeding like one thing in different dishes rather than
Yes. If you rather than buying mixes, you're paying 20% VAT.
yeah?
You don't have to be Scottish and Welsh to appreciate that 20% VAT is better in your pocket. You know, and if you've got enough birds and you can buy separate seeds, buy them separate, because there's a lot of waste when birds are raking through for things. There's a lot of waste. This is what people don't appreciate when you're feeding things like egg food. How much is thrown out?
Yeah.
You know, oh, I use this egg food, but you see the amount that's thrown out. It's scary. Even with your seed, if you got a winnower and think, oh, they're eating well, and you got a winnower, you know, with some of these conditioning seeds and all the rest, if you saw what was left after the birds are finished, it's a lot of waste. You know?
So other than white millet, then, if you're going to feed separate seeds, what else?
So white millet, I say I would put a little bit of hemp in throughout the year, but I say a week before breeding, you really want to put dishes of hemp and let them take that in, because say the amino acids and that will switch the birds on. It'll increase their body weight and say to the bird there's an availability of food, of nutrients for my youngsters. You know, again, you're looking at spinach every day. I give your wheat's brilliant, and you know, if you want to give other fruit and veg as well, carrots, you know.
So as an actual seed, off the shelf seed, you would say it don't really give anything other than white millet.
White millet and hemp. Yeah. The odd bit of groats, but I don't give too much because it's too starchy, and I say the wheat's the main thing. And I've had a lot of people who've gone on to the wheat, and the birds are eating more wheat than anything else. But you know they're getting the moisture and the nutrients, you know.
So you don't feed canary seed at all?
No. I don't feed plague canary.
Vince, can I have my money back?
Sorry?
Back off.
Out of how many pairs and what's your normal breeding season consist of, or how long a length do you do it from performance? What we talk about today.
The last little while, I haven't paired up since last year. Family issues and having a heart attack doesn't help either, you know. But I would normally have about 20 pairs. And have birds left over that you don't breed with. I think that's not fair on the birds, because you know you want to be able to give them all an opportunity. So I've cut way back, but I'm probably looking now at 10 pairs. You know, 10 pairs of birds, and if you can get 10 birds out of each of them, that's a lot of birds. You know, but if you get them right, you're not looking at ones and twos. You want fours and fives now.
I know that's what I was meaning from your previous seasons up to,
Yeah.
to now, I didn't know anything about
I've always been able to keep birds because it's all about switching them on.
Yeah.
You know.
I've been in performance. Well, the basic question is how long is your breeding season and how many do you breed? That's what I was asking.
My breeding season would normally be, because I keep different types of
Yeah.
birds, it's going all year round almost. But with budgies, you're probably looking at end of October, November, you know, and then you're looking at by May time you're finished, you know. It's good to have that break. You want to have that break, you know. But it's all about bringing your birds all in at the same time and out at the same time, you know. But I haven't shown for years, you know. My son showed a few years back as a junior, you know, but I wasn't. Too much politics. You know, it's the same few people in clubs everywhere. They do all the work, and it's the same few people that moan. You know, and that can't be done. That life's too short. You know, but it sounds like you've got a good club here.
We think so. There's actually two clubs because we got the Exeter Valley lads, and they're all members of the Welsh,
Right.
and we're all members of the Exeter Valley, except for the English boys.
Well,
Right.
what do you mean?
You're being
Happy.
But yeah, we seem to be getting an influx of boys that we're all chipping in together.
Yeah, no, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. You know? Right.
There is an English boy with a shirt on.
I know.
It's not.
Colin,
It's really pointing, you know.
How big are your breeding cages if you've got separate all these separate pots of seed in them?
How big are the breeding cages? Again, it's interesting when you see some of the setups. The last thing you want, when you see the performance of a bird, what a bird does for breeding, you don't want them big cages because they just sit and they don't do much. You want the perches but that far apart because the way a cockbird displays, it jumps up, you know, sits up. You know how the hen sits to be tread, but the cock shows off by flying from perch to perch. So if you've got a perch that's that far apart, the time it flies to that, it's knackered. You know, you really want it there to chirp away, then back again, and back again, and tread the hen. But the last thing you want is a bird flying over its own food. You know, you've got a confined space and you've got birds flying their own food. Put the food to the back or to the front, you know, because most of the activity when you watch your birds is in the middle. You have your food in the middle. It's got a chance of putting crap all over it every time it flies back forward, you know. And the same with the water as well. You've got to put it so it's not going to get messed up, you know, and you want it easy cleaned as well. So mine's are 18 by 12. But to be honest with you, the way life's been now, I'm trying to work smart as opposed to hard. And I'm now thinking, can I just colony breed and just have a couple of feeding stations and let them get on with it? You know, you've got all the stress of picking partners and all the rest, but if you've got stress reducer on the birds, it's not the same issue. You know, I know a lot of people have tried exhibition, you know, colony breeding, and it hasn't worked for them. You know, you put the pets in, they'll breed like mice. You know, but I'm at the stage of life saying I want to enjoy what I'm doing without all the effort. You know.
Can I just ask one more question about the seed? What about, do you see any benefit in tonic seeds? I know you've already said white with it and head.
Tonic seed
else, but
is a gimmick. I remember years ago as a kid, somebody that sold seed made their own tonic seed, and it was just all the scrapings off the floor for all the different seeds. And the reason they put tonic in it was just the aniseed was to get the birds to go for it and just to sell the seed. When you look at what's left behind in tonic seed, there's not a lot of seed in. You could put aniseed onto stale food and the birds will still go for it. They might not eat it, but they'll attract them to it. You know, to me, it's just a gimmick. And again, with the homeopathy, it just null and voids it. You can give tonic seed, leave it for the week you're doing it, and then go back to tonic seed, and you'll still switch the immune system on for the remedy you're giving them. But why would you pay for something that's giving them no benefit anyway? You know, it just seems pointless.
Tell me something. When we spoke a couple of years ago after I saw the video that you've done and I started using the wheat, when the budgie dehusks a groat, you've got a shell.
Yeah.
And what I noticed after 3 or 4 weeks after using the soaked wheat, I was having a shell.
Right.
After about 5 or 6 weeks, and if they were really pumping chicks,
right,
I was having dust.
Right.
No shell. They
Right.
seem to be eating the shell as well.
Right.
Is that normal?
Yes, and it's a good thing. Fibre's important for birds. Fibre's really important for birds. again, in the poultry industry, they're finding that if you have non-soluble fibre, the performance is even better for conversion. So you really want fibre. It works the system, you know. But,
Because you wouldn't get that with the growth, which my studies,
that's right.
I could leave a dish of dehulled groats there
Yeah.
that they've done themselves.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't touch it.
Yeah.
But if I left the wheat there, they would eat all the shell.
Yeah. No,
That's-
it's in this port again. Being soaked,
Mm.
it's easy absorbed.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But
But
that
no,
was one thing I did notice.
Yeah.
They deshell and leave it.
Yeah.
And they may leave undeshelled groats in there.
Yeah.
But what I'd noticed with the wheat, they were pushing everything out the way to find every bit of wheat,
Yeah.
and then they go around all the shelves.
yeah, no, that's ideal.
And when I'd go in there and I'd be like, where is it?
Yeah,
It's gone.
yeah,
You know what I mean? They were practically washing the dishes for it.
yeah.
You know.
No, ideal. But again, humans, fibre is important for us, and you know, we don't have a clue how to look after ourselves. You know, having a heart attack, you get a big wake up call, cholesterol. What's that? You know, you're told about it, but you don't think about it. You know, if we knew a bit more, I think we'd all be a lot healthier. You know, but no, it's not a bad thing. Fibre is important. Yeah. Any other questions?
Soaking the oats, do you leave them 12 or 24 hours soaking? And do you leave them drain off to a certain point of being dry but wet?
I don't soak my oats. I soak wheat.
Oh, sorry, wheat then, sorry,
Yeah, but yeah, 24 hours. No, it's 48. If you use hot water, right, and soak it, cover it, leave it for 2 days, and then you're starting the germination process, but you're not sprouting it. But sometimes I've heard folk with organic wheat, after a day it starts to sprout. You know, just depends how it's been stored.
Boiled water or just hot water?
Just off water, just off the boil, you know, and then it to me it adds almost like a second day, an extra day, because you've used hot water, whereas you use cold. Now I've heard people that'll put it in the microwave and they'll cook it, you know, in the water. It's like, why are you trying to race it on, let it do it naturally? You're not starting the germination process by doing that. You might fluff it up and you might get some moisture in it, but you're not getting the germination. You know, the 2 days gives you the germination.
Yeah.
You know.
So after you soak it, Colin, you then rinse it and let it
Yeah, rinse it and put it through. Yeah.
How long would you use that batch for?
I would use it for 2 days. It's every second day I'd put another batch on. You know, you can buy these little seed things that produce, they're pretty good. You know, you get it stacked on top of each other and just rotate them around, you know. Pretty good. But yeah, as long as there's no smell, I use the clean and clear every day when I'm mist spraying for cleaning, but I don't use it when I'm soaking my seed, you know. I could do, and it's not going to do harm, it's just going to stop any virus. But I've got into a routine there, I do that, you know, every 2 days and rinse it off. And I've seen the odd bit that has a wee bit mould or something, I just take that off, rinse it. Never had any issues.
Right then, lads. Hope you've all enjoyed the talk. We've got a break for lunch now.